How would you like to achieve your first million? And today we have Mark Working joining us from United Kingdom, and he's a serial entrepreneur, franchise owner. He has have several exits in different business, but his first business was when he was 8 years old. So imagine lots of years of experience. So today you're for a trick. Mark, tell us what are the 5 steps that you recommend entrepreneurs to make the first million?
Welcome to Unstoppable Podcast with Harry Sardinas, inspiring conversations with influential millionaires, investors, thought leaders, entrepreneurs who are making a massive difference with their innovative products and services, and sharing the challenges and wisdom of how they sold their first million.
Oh, Harry. Well, look, first of all, Harry, thank you so much for inviting me onto your podcast. I hope in the
Pleasure.
next 30 minutes, 45 minutes, whatever it is, your listeners get some massive value from my 38 years of being in business. It's interesting that the opening question is, what are the 5 steps for somebody to make their first million? Who says they need to make 1 million? Why not make 10 million? Do you know, once you've made your first million, it's very easy to make 10 million because it's just duplicating the system you have. So the reason I put it that way is that step 1 has to be that you feel that you have a product or a service that there's a need for in the marketplace. Step 2 is, instead of doing it on your own, you need to reach out and get a business mentor that you wish to emulate, somebody that's been in business for 38 years, for example, who has had multiple businesses in multiple niches and also has lots of friends across the globe which can help you expand your business. The third thing you have to be is coachable. If you don't feel you're coachable, which leads on to step 4, which is actionable, then you're not in the best place and best suited in that position to try and grow a business in the first place. So you have to be open, you have to be coachable, you have to be actionable. And I would really call that step 3, 4, and 5.
Just be able to take action. Very good. And then, Mark, tell us why you decide to become an entrepreneur. Do you have an entrepreneur in your family? You started your first business when you were 8 years old. So what happened? Did you read a book? Did you saw a TV show? Do your parents they were entrepreneur? Why you decided to be an entrepreneur?
Sure. Yeah. So business is in our family blood. My mother did our family tree. We go back to being merchant traders right back in the 1500s. We can follow our family history.
Wow.
And coming from Portsmouth, coming from the middle to north of Wales, coming from Scotland down to the Birmingham area. There are many photographs of my family business through Victorian times when photography was a new thing because of where our businesses were situated, right next to what's called Grand Central Station now. It used to be called New Street Station. And basically, if you look at a map that's on a north-south perpendicular, the land to the right-hand side was my family's property. My great name is painted down the side of the building in some of the black and whites.
Wow.
And so it's been in the blood. Ever since I was born, being an oldest grandchild, it was being born into a business family. But it's more, I keep saying business family, it's about being supported by a business family. So as a business mentor, what I aim to do is support every client that comes into my life, whether that's through one-on-one coaching, whether that's through group coaching. Obviously, one-to-one is better because it can help that specific person with their specific challenges. But some of my businesses are group training, and that helps to create a new group for that person with new group contacts. Some of those are high net worth individuals as well with other businesses, and you never know what contact is going to lead on to somebody making their first million.
So what was your opinion of your mom when you were 8 years old and she find out that you have a business? Did she told you off or she encouraged you and said, wow, you're doing amazing. Let me try to help you. What happened? What was the reaction when she find out that you have 8 years old and you have your own business?
Yeah, it was down to my mother that I actually had the business because...
Oh, really?
We moved to Worcester when I was 7 years of age. And my mother's contacts at that time led me to working at the age of 8. I called it working. I was cutting people's lawns and hedges.
Wow.
For a department of the local council of friends that my mother knew. So my mother was an entrepreneur. She was the business owner. She had lots of contacts. I then followed what were called home helps around. Home helps are basically people that help elderly.
Was she happy that you were doing this?
She was very happy. My was extremely happy that I kind
Great
of got
to hear that because, you know, we have stories in this same podcast that parents coming from another background, they are not entrepreneurs. They just have a job and then the kid decide to have their own business, and then when they find out, they tell off and they tell, look, don't do this. This is bad. What are you doing making money? So there's a story that one of my friends at this age, 7, 8 years old, she started to sell eggs in the school, right? And everybody in the school was buying the eggs and started to hide the money on the pillow because she knew that, you know, the mother might find out is going to be in trouble. Well, bottom line, the mom one day go to the bed and find out the pillow full of money, and she make a huge deal. She went to the school and she told to the teacher, "You should be ashamed of from this kid." They her off. She took all the money, put it in the bank, and then even though here it was in Nicaragua, so the money get depreciated. In the end, the girl have zero. So she's an entrepreneur now, but she has a big trauma to overcome. And still she has challenges because that is back in the mind that what's the point to make a business? Somebody gonna come and take it away, and I need to start from zero again. So you have the childhood for trauma for childhood. So the point of the story, Mark, is I want to congratulate your mom, yeah, to be a good example, because this is what I think that is a good example to right, because at the end of the day, entrepreneurs, we create the job for society. Without us, society cannot function, and we need more of it, and it's time to support entrepreneurs. This is what the mission of this broadcast is. We want all the entrepreneurs to be wealthy, happy, and healthy, and this is the we preach here. But then, Mark, tell us how you overcome adversity. You shared with me before the broadcast that at some point you were running a business, but something happened terrible in the family, and then you have to make some decisions, and then you have to sell the business and so on. Tell us how you overcome adversity when you are owning a business. For example, I have one problem myself. You see, my first business was in property. We managed to sell over 5 million, but one day I got a phone call that my mom was sick, and I had to be away 1 year without working the business. Thanks God that everything was in autopilot, but I had to be away for a year, traveling with my mom, or finding the best doctor to cure her. Now she's fine. So tell us, Mark, how you overcome adversity, and what is the good thing to be an entrepreneur when you have to deal with adversity in life with your loved ones.
First of all, I'm glad to hear that your mother has recovered. That's first. I'd like to say that.
Took a lot of travel, though, and a lot of money. Thank God that I was an entrepreneur. If I wasn't working, I couldn't save her life, because I only got 1 month holiday. Absolutely. Thank God that I was an entrepreneur.
Absolutely. And that's why I'd like to just take the conversation back about 2 minutes ago when you mentioned about your friend who was selling eggs and she wasn't supported by her mother, etc., etc. The thing I mentioned when you'd asked me originally, what are the 5 steps to growing a business to $1 million? The second thing I said, and everyone can pull this podcast back and listen to the second thing I said, and that is where I said you need a business mentor, somebody that you want to be like. The worst people to ask in a new entrepreneur's life for help, support, financial investment are your closest friends and family. 2 reasons.
I agree 100%.
One, they only want the best for you anyway. And the second thing is, should it not work out, which may mean that it's not that it was a bad idea, it was just badly executed because you didn't have a business mentor to steer you in the right direction, your family are then the quickest to judge you because they still believe that they're supporting you by saying you were a fool for going into doing this, this, or this. So the reason why I would always suggest to somebody to have a business mentor is that it cuts down on one big thing, and that's time. Somebody can either spend the next 5 years developing a widget and trying to find a marketplace for their widget and hope that their widget will make them $1 million, or they can find a business mentor who will be quite harsh with them because he wants the best for them in a business sense, doesn't care about the relationship, they're not a relative of the family, they are not even a friend, they are a client. And every professional business mentor that has a client only has interests at heart, the best interest being making $1 million, full stop, end of. That then leads on to what happened in my life. And I know you've mentioned about your mother falling ill, and as we've said, through funds, you were able to get her healthy again. So basically from the age of 8 until I was 24 and a half, everything I touched for those years turned to gold. I secured...
Wow, very impressive.
It was about being... There's 2 things. It's about being in the right place at the right time and also being quite open to open your mouth and ask somebody for an opportunity. I only got to run Worcestershire's largest nightclub, which had a capacity of 2,500 customers.
Wow.
Because I spoke to the nightclub manager and said, I would love to run this place. There's a longer story to that, but we don't have to go for that today. But ultimately, having worked there for a short period of time as an underage barman, but I was 6'2", I had lots of curly hair in those days. Nobody would tell
Yeah.
I looked 18. In the documents, I was 18. I worked behind the bar. And then within 6 months, I was on the training program. I took over the nightclub from the existing manager. And to this day, I am still friends with that manager who gave me that opportunity.
Wow.
Social media has helped us immensely over the years. I'm also friends with the DJ that I lived on the premises with. The premises were an old church. We lived in the vicarage in the grounds at the back, which is where the graveyard was, and still is in reality. It's still the land. And we've been friends for 38 years. So the other thing to have in your business career and life is validation. For everybody that comes into this world nowadays as a potential entrepreneur, they have to be able to validate what they're doing. And there's nothing better than having validation to say, I am working with a successful high net worth business mentor. That's another thing they need to do, unless they come from a wealthy business family. Therefore, they can carry on that as validation into their new entrepreneurship. So that's really the key thing. The thing that happened to myself when I was 24 and a half is my partner and I at the time, my partner was 10 years older than me. She was actually quite like a business mentor because she had her own businesses at the time. And we met when I was years of age. So I was 18, she was 28. When I was 24, she was nearly 35. We decided to have a baby and we had a child, we had a son, and our son died.
Wow.
And through our son dying and being, as I just said a couple of minutes ago, everything I touched from the age of 8 to 24 and a half turned to gold. I didn't really deal with the death of my son particularly well, in the sense that I became a sudden introvert from being a very extroverted type of business person. And similarly, she never dealt with the death, of course, of her own child as well. It's more of a sad situation for a lady because they carry the child through to birth. But as a father, it was also quite traumatic. So there was a valuable lesson learned there for me, Harry. Have completely changed the way that I view life.
That's a huge adversity.
Some
people go crazy. Some people go crazy. Some people start to drinking. Some people go to drugs. Some people go depressed. Some people divorce and stop blaming. We hear stories here similar in this broadcast from other entrepreneurs, and it's one of the toughest adversity that we can overcome. So how you manage?
So I threw myself into work. More work than I was doing previously. As I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, there were lots of logistics companies that wanted a guy to step in to kind of be the fixer or the axeman. So generally, it was well known in the logistics industry, if Mark Walker turned up at your head office, he was either going to build the business or shut it down. And that was kind of the name that I carried for nearly 10 years. So by putting myself deeply into work, working on multiple projects, creating more multiple streams of income within my own businesses and other people's businesses, it kind of just took me away from dealing with the situation, which was the biggest challenge at that time. Now, since then, of course, I've had many clients who've been through every type of trauma, from loss of their own child to loss of their spouse or partner to a loss of a member of their family. So dealing with that kind of loss is something that every entrepreneur has to be ready.
And running a business at the same time is a huge challenge.
Yes. And this is some things that people don't take into account, Harry, when they try to become an entrepreneur. They don't kind of also understand that life will happen at the same time as they're trying to build a business.
Yeah.
And again, the worst type of people to have around you, and I use the word worst with a small w, but the worst type of people, as I've mentioned, are friends and family. Because if you have a sudden bereavement in the family, they're going to be involved in your business because of the bereavement. And so we have to have business mentors that work with us that can be compassionate, but also keep them on the straight and narrow to where their plan is going to be. Because somebody who sets out today to have a business that will turn over $1 million, that could happen within the first 6 months, or it could take 6 years. And if you have an adversity, will just come along at any time. It does not send you a letter in advance or an email to say, hey, this is coming down the pipe.
It's happening all of a sudden. Yeah.
Absolutely. So what you need is somebody who's dealt with adversity, knows how to overcome adversity, has solutions for adversity. Sometimes the adversity can be just running out of cash on a project. And it may well be that the project actually wasn't a project in the first place, but their friend said, this is a great widget. You're going to sell millions of them. You'll be successful. And actually, when a business mentor steps in to look at the widget, it's kind of like, where do you think the marketplace is for this? And you can actually save people a lot of time, money, and effort by being completely straight and open with them. Like I said earlier, my only interest for private clients is for their ultimate success financially.
But then, Mark, one more question related to that, because, this undoubtedly, you and your partner, whatever happened, you're going to feel guilty, right? And all these negative emotions, it get accumulating in your brain, regardless that it's not your fault or your partner's fault. It's undoubtable, inevitable that all these negative emotions about this incident, they are in your brain. Now, the negative emotion, if you don't deal with it, they can become a physical pain. You can end up with cancer. You can end up with an illness because this emotional pain generate physical pain. And when you have this emotional pain, then you take bad decisions in the business. This happened to me, right? I running my first business. I don't know. I was working the first 2 years and I was wearing all the hat. I was doing this property business, so I'm the maintenance guy, I'm the sales guy, I'm growing the company all by myself. And after 2 years, I'm tired. I'm so exhausted, and I'm so angry. And you see that, and so because I couldn't, I was not sleeping. I remember waking up, laptop in my lap. So I was angry. I was sad. But then I thought these people were better than me in running the company. So all of a sudden, in the other 2 years, the company is to operate by autopilot. However, because I still have negative emotion and let it go. Guess what happened? I went to Brick Lane in London. I opened a restaurant. I lost 200,000 pounds in 2 years of my life. So the negative emotion, yeah, I have stories, my friend. You see, I call it Harry Spanish stuff. I didn't have any clue about restaurant. I should call it Lola and Pepe, yeah, but Lola or Pepe. Anyway, so the point of the story is that if you have this, the negative emotion combined with this thing that I want to ask you also, how to deal with success, because everybody talk about how to deal with failure. But when you have success, see, you have to deal with it because it was a combination of all this negative emotion that I had there and also feeling uncomfortable. What I'm doing in my house, all this money's coming, I'm not doing anything. I become anxious. I start to watch movies and I'm anxious. All the money's coming, I'm not doing anything. The business running autopilot, growing autopilot, and I'm so uncomfortable that I decided that was a good idea to go and open a restaurant in Brick Lane, which is a huge risk, and I did learn a big lesson. So, Mark, how you managed to deal with your negative emotion, and how you let that go or deal with it, so it didn't affect your business decision. Because when the entrepreneur is not in the right mindset and that negative emotions are there, I'm telling you, because of my own experience, they will take wrong decisions and the business can literally collapse.
No, absolutely. Well, there's a couple of things as well you've covered a few minutes ago when you said about success. With the loss of my son, that was just, all I can say for people listening is I dealt with it. Ultimately, I dealt with it on my own personal level, as with my partner at the time after we'd separated. We dealt with it.
So what you did, Mike? You did some meditation, you walk in the park, you find help, you find a mentor. How it's really tough.
It is. Like I said earlier, everybody has their own personal level. And so what I would say would not relate necessarily.
Yeah.
It's not that I went off and discovered Christianity or religion or anything like that. I threw myself into work. Work was what I'd done since I was 8 years of age. I was now 25. So you can imagine with all of those years, once I threw myself into work and different projects, my mind was overtaken by the positive.
Very good. Yeah,
a little bit like when somebody says, if you're a tumbler full of poison liquid, you take that tumbler and you water into the tumbler, and eventually the tumbler overflows and all the poison gets washed out of the cup. Very similar to me in terms of the trauma and the loss of my son that I was experiencing, which was a physical pain loss. People might not think I'm talking like it now, but I'm 56 now. I lost my son when I was 25. So, it's a long time ago. However, I still think of him as if he was here this year. Not to the nth degree that I don't know other things.
No, we understand.
That was a spiritual being who was fully formed, was perfectly fine on the inside of his mother, came out and just didn't breathe. And that's the bottom line. So, dealing with that, but then also understanding from talking to the doctors and nurses at the time about the number of full-term pregnancies that don't come to fruition. That was an interesting statistic to learn back in the day as well. So again, not being a doctor or a midwife of sorts at the time, you don't know all the stats. If you're not given stats, if you don't know the procedures, if you don't know the outcome and the figures, a little bit like running a business. If you don't have all of those in your business, you don't know whether your business is going to be 100%. Successful or not. 100%. So that covers really how I overcame the tragedy of losing my son. Everyone listening needs to perhaps take on board or take away from this podcast is that success is subjective. To the individual, Some people might be happy to earn an extra £1,000 a week. Some people might want £10,000 a week. And there are some people that just want to have, £10 million a year. That's fine. The challenge is to achieve those figures. It goes back to what I said right back at the beginning of the podcast. Step one, do you have a product or service that somebody wants to buy or utilize? That's key. But success is down to the individual and what they think is success. Somebody coming from a very poor background can make a lot of money and lose a lot of money very quickly because they don't know about money management. So that's one of the things that I teach in my one-to-one training. Some people can make a lot of money and hold on to a lot of money because then they're told how to store wealth, because wealth is just a storage. Whether you're storing wealth in gold and silver, or whether you're down the digital route and storing it in Bitcoin, a storage of wealth and an asset that grows is what people need to do. And they might sound like fundamental things for people listening, like, yeah, we've heard all this before. Well, if they've heard it all before, it's because they've not put it into practice. And if they put it into practice, and I'll give you the classic example of gold and silver. Gold last year, the price of gold over the course of 12 months went up 25%. This year to date, it is up 15% already. So if you take last year's figure at a 25% growth, should somebody have made £100,000 or dollars, it doesn't matter about the actual currency, but 100,000 out of their product or service, the last thing they should do, because they're now successful, is go and spend any of it. They should take their first year's profits and put it into a wealth creation tool such as gold or silver, or a particular coin like Bitcoin, but we're focusing on gold. Because if they'd have put 100,000 into their gold account in January 2024, they'd have had 25,000 extra, again, pounds, dollars, it doesn't matter, in their gold account, Harry. And that's the key thing. People need to learn how to leverage the money that they've made to make more money. They literally would have made 25% more on their gold holding last year.
Yeah, glad to hear that, Mark, because this is a conversation that we do have with entrepreneurs sometimes that started their own business. And this is what they do. They build the business and they start to make some money. They take all the money, they reinvest it in the business. They take all the money, they reinvest in the business. They take all the money, they reinvest in the business. And one day, COVID happened. The industry have a dramatic change, and they go out of business. They lost everything, and they don't even have time to process what I'm sharing.
Let me just cut in there, Harry, please, because you mentioned the lockdown period when people, there were some businesses that closed down. There were some businesses that went very close to the wall. The biggest challenge that the businesses had, the ones that closed down, is they didn't pivot quick enough. They did not pivot. They were told to do something, and they took another person's instructions who doesn't care about their business, and they closed the doors, and they told their customers, sorry, there's nothing we can do. We're closed until further notice. Complete nonsense. Complete nonsense. I had one of my best years that year. I created a brand new business that made £80,000 of net profit in 2 months.
There you go with the COVID.
And that was through lockdown. Yeah. And all listened to me and pivoted quickly and started doing home delivery services way before they were told, oh, by the way, you can go and do home delivery services. we were ahead of the curve. And that's the thing. If somebody has a business mentor in their life, the business mentor will know the shortcuts to success. We don't have to wait for somebody we've never met before, sitting in an office in London, breaking all the rules anyways, we found out they were, telling us what we need to do. As an entrepreneur, you make your millions. Then if they want to prosecute you because you broke a rule, you pay a fine and they let you off. That's how the world works. But if you're not making your millions to start with, and you're listening to people saying, oh, is your business okay? We'd best shut you down. Then you're not going to have a business. That's the key thing again.
Yeah, then the conversation that we have with entrepreneurs is the following, because 20%, the 20% of everybody that we interview here, out of the 500 multimillionaires that we have interviewed here, 1 out of 5, 1 out of 6, they are property investors, and the other ones are in the tech space. So what we share with the entrepreneurs here is, like, if you have a business, right, and you take all your money and reinvest it back in the business, take some part of the money and buy a property or buy a vehicle that can generate you cash flow. And then for the money that you make extra with the rent, you can use that money for marketing. So if one day something happened and you cannot pivot enough or whatever, you still have this cash flow. You still have this multiple stream of income from another sources. You sustainable, grow your business, and you can diversify some funds in another ways that can give you cash flow. This cash flow, you can use it for marketing. And you guess what happened? If one day something goes wrong with the business, still this cash flow is coming and coming. So, Mark, the question for you is: do you think that one of five people in this broadcast, five steps how to make the first million, are property investor? I hear that you're also on a property portfolio internationally. What do you think that property is a good vehicle to become a millionaire? Is it really that easy to become a millionaire investing in property? What is your view on this? Can the entrepreneurs that have any business should look into deeply into diversify somehow in property when it's the right deal? Of course. What is your view on all this?
Sure. So to answer your question directly, I don't think investing in the United Kingdom as a sole entrepreneur is the way forward currently in the property market. Not only for the issues that we have with red tape and politics, not only with the issues that we have with white papers that are currently going through Parliament to do with more forced compulsory buyback for older properties and older people. Imagine being in your 60s now, retired in a house that's 8 to 10 bedrooms, and you get a knock on the door from your local council saying, here's now a paper that's been ratified by the Parliament to say we're going to compulsory purchase your property because you're too old and you don't need a 10-bedroom property. It's going through Parliament. And this is the thing, Harry, is that as an entrepreneur, I'm very well read. I was actually in politics for 4 years, a number of years ago. That's a different conversation, another podcast. But I do keep my ear very close to the ground for what is going through Parliament at any one time, because the number of green papers that become white papers that get ratified and new laws come in, and nobody knows the law's there until it happens to them. And if you want to invest in the UK, people have to be very aware of some of the property laws and the housing regulations and the tenant acts that are coming through Parliament as we sit here on this podcast. Now, that's not to say that investing in property is not profitable. The challenge we have in the UK is that the number of houses, let's say from 30 years ago, where you could pick up for, half the price of what you can sell it for, and you put a little bit of investment in to do a refurbishment, and then you're able to pull out your money and make, a good return. Those days are gone. Genuinely gone. The only way you're going to make good money is if you pool your money into a capital private lending company or a private lending fund, which I operate as well, where we can pool the resources of individuals that have 5 or 6 or 7 figure sums, and we can do the bigger deals. And when we do the bigger deals, because there's less people in that pond going after the bigger deals, we're able to secure the bigger deals and do bigger contracts and therefore make more sustainable profit. The bottom line is, when you're doing small house refurbishments nowadays, you've got the cost of materials for a
very high.
A single
cost of construction has become really high in UK. My God.
Absolutely.
Compared
and also
where it was before, right?
And also with the labor cost, where you've now got skilled workforce that are lower, and a set of builders bricklaying on your site might come to me if I offer them £2 an hour more to come and lay my bricks because I need my job finishing. And you're then left with a project that's half finished. And you have to go onto social media websites such as good old Facebook and go to any of the building groups where you'll have those guys and girls that come out of the bigger training camps that are doing their first deals. And they kind of nowadays say, hey, I've just finished this project after 6 months and we've sold the building. But actually, when you look at the statistics and the financials, they pulled like £10,000, £15,000 profit out. Well, if someone wants to work for 6 months for £15,000, I really suggest they go back and get a job. Because at least you've not had to do any sweat labor. You've just done a job and you've got your 50 grand.
Yeah, you don't have to take any risk, right?
Absolutely. So for entrepreneurs with, 5-figure sums, 6-figure sums, 7-figure sums, those are the sort of individuals that we look to attract into our pool so we can tell them about some of the bigger projects we've got on the go, both in Portugal and also Puerto Rico.
So investing internationally could be a good vehicle, right?
Well, yeah, because what a lot of individuals...
if you find someone that knows what he's doing, and can explain you the risk involved, because that's the other thing.
Sure.
It's about...
So take Portugal, for example. We have a builder who's a builder friend of ours who was born in Portugal, lived in Portugal and France.
I hear that it's good for tax, Portugal.
Well, it's okay, but I'll move pretty swiftly on this one. But I just want the concept with everybody out there, because anybody can do this, Harry. This guy was born in Portugal, lives in France, lives in the UK for over 20 years, so speaks 4 languages, actually. He can go to Portugal. He can pull a build team together. He can ask for a digger. How do you go to a foreign land and ask where the JCB is? Because you need to dig some foundations.
Oh, my God.
You need somebody who's got language skills. So we're very fortunate to have a guy who's looking after our Portuguese projects. Then look across over at Puerto Rico, where my good friend Davin Michaels, who we've been friends for 16 years, he's the guy that started Virtual Assistants with 123 Employee all those years ago. Davin's lived over in Puerto Rico now for 7 years, ever since Hurricane Maria hit. Hurricane Maria devastated the local economy. It devastated the local villages, and people's houses were literally washed away. Now, when you look at Puerto Rico as a country to invest in, you have to say, well, why would I invest in Puerto Rico? You know, I live in United Kingdom. Well, let's
it's United States. It's a very safe investment because it goes of United States, right?
Well, yeah, but it's even better than for people listening in. They'll like this. If they want to create $1 million, remember, not creating money isn't always about physically creating money. It's about saving money as well. Okay, because if you make £1 million in the UK, you're going to be taxed 60%. So you're going to lose.
Absolutely.
So let's just into Puerto Rico. You make £1 million a year in Puerto Rico, and you take that as a salary. You pay 4% tax. That's
wow.
It. Okay, so now you've made $1 million. You paid 4% tax on your $1 million. But you know what? You decide not to be greedy. You'll take $250,000 out for this year, and you'll still pay 4% tax. Then you go to year 2 of your business, and it then makes a clear $1 million profit. So you take those as dividends, as directors' dividends. Over in the UK, you pay tax on dividends. Puerto Rico, no tax on dividends. So you pull $1 million out year 2, no tax. You're still just paying your 4% tax on your £250,000 a year salary. So then you decide as a property investor, well, we've done this project now. It's lasted 5 years. We built a block of flats or whatever we're doing, and we want to exit. We now want to sell the business. Again, in the UK, the government would be very happy to say, well, that's capital gains tax. You started the business here and you've sold it there, and therefore we want another, 40% from you. Puerto Rico, 0% capital gains tax. So who's got it switched on and who's got it right? The UK, who's literally emptying people's pockets before they make a penny, or Puerto Rico that says, please come and put your investment into our country, help us rebuild, help us build new housing, help us do social housing, help our economy. For that, we reimburse you by not taxing you for dividends and not taxing you when you exit your business. And all we ask is you pay 4% income tax in reality on your salary.
And on top of that is United States. So it's it's like you are in United States, one of them where we have rural law and rights, because
and also from my perspective in terms of obviously through the podcast, maybe attracting 1 or 2 people to have a call with me so they can find out more about that. It's also important to mention, and again, other people can go down this route as well, but we have contacts in Puerto Rico, not only from Davin Michaels, who's a very good friend of 16 years. He created the San Juan Social Club, which has become the fastest growing networking club, pretty much, I'd say within America. He started off with 10 friends. They now have 4,000 entrepreneurs in Puerto Rico that are part of the San Juan Social Club. San Juan, of course, is the capital of Puerto Rico. Now, because of that, it's also attracted government officials to be part of the club. So the recent cruise that I was on, which was the second year of the annual San Juan Social Cruise, I'm rubbing shoulders for the second year with government officials and talking to them about bringing investment to their country. What can they do to help me? What red tape can we cut through officially, not unofficially, but what short steps can I take in order to get an appointment at the government office without waiting months? So I have all those contacts, which just makes for a really good investment opportunity.
Yeah. So then mentorship, the one guy that we interviewed in this podcast, he had done 42 exits over $1 million, and he told me, Harry, and now I'm doing property in Colorado, and now I have in the last 2 years a great portfolio in Colorado. And I'm like, wow, how you did that? And he told me, Harry, very easy. I arrived to Colorado and I took a lot of money and I paid the best mentor that knows about property in Colorado. He showed me everything. And then I followed the mentors and that's it. Now I have a portfolio. Probably now he has a bigger portfolio than his mentor. The point of the story is someone that had done 42 exits in different industries over $1 million is someone that have a pretty deep understanding of business. Yet he decided that he wanted to get into property, which he didn't know anything. He decided that the way to go is to hire a mentor to show him about the property market in Colorado, and then he started to execute it. So why highly successful people with a good track record and deep understanding of business with more than 42 exits over $1 million decide to hire a mentor in order to help them to grow in the particular market, in the particular niche? And we have this huge resistance with the entrepreneurs and with the founders that they all want to figure out by themselves. No, I don't need a mentor. I can do it by myself. And you see, the trial and error is expensive. I
So I
know that
mentioned earlier,
we know that because we build business from scratch with our mentors, so we know how hard it is. And then we have all the people trying to do it by themselves, and then they don't even want to listen to mentor. They don't want to hear. And then I'm telling them, look, I get it, because in my first 2 years of an entrepreneur, I thought that I was a big deal and I thought that I knew everything until I lose 200,000 in the restaurant in Brick Lane, and I realized that I'm a nobody. I don't have any clue what I'm doing, and I need help. So, what do you think, Mark? What is the main stepping stone that you think that the other thing is that people to mentor they go to social media, to the Facebook, they find someone with a Ferrari and the shiny lights, and they say, "Oh, this is gonna be my mentor." They pay a lot of money, give very little value, and then not saying that those mentors are not so good, but I think what is your view? Are people hiding the mentors properly? And or is it mentor really a big good thing in order for entrepreneurs or people trying to grow the business? Why so much resistance?
well, the resistance of the individual is because they just don't know. They have an idea, they have a concept, they've spoken to their family about it. Maybe they've been down their local pub and spoken to their friends who've said that's a good idea or a bad idea. Everything, as I said earlier, Harry, where you're talking to people that are too close to you is not a good idea. You have to reach out. Yeah, whoever's listening to this now, if you have an idea or a concept and you've just spoken to close friends, you have to reach out to a mentor. It could be me. I have a free opportunity for anybody that wants to have a quick 15-minute phone call with me. There's a specific website and a calendar. They can go and just jump on there, put their name and their email address and book a
What's the
call.
website? Can you mention it for the people listening in the car?
Absolutely. It's just markwalker.online, markwalker.online, and that will take you through to my calendar. So anyone that you've heard me on Harry's podcast, will get a free call. If somebody wants to book me for longer, there are a couple of payment options on there for longer calls, but I'm very happy to have a 15-minute call, because in 15 minutes, they will get literally a day's worth of value out of me in 15 minutes about their idea, their concept, what I personally think about it, why I think it will work or won't work. Maybe they've got an idea which somebody I met 3 years ago had the same idea, and I helped them and it made them $1 million, and they can copy my blueprint and they can become successful. Who knows what's going to be on the call, Harry? That's the main thing to remember, is people don't know what they don't know. So if they jump on a call with me, I'll set them on a path of success.
Yeah,
The
and I
second
think
thing is,
okay, go ahead.
I was just to finish off on your other point. The second thing is that everybody doesn't know what journey they need to be on yet. They are possibly listening to this because they're in a job that they don't like. They may be an aspirational entrepreneur, which just means to me that they have too many projects on the go and they're not focusing on one yet to get it over the line. It's very easy for somebody to say, oh, I run 3 businesses or 4 businesses or whatever number of businesses. But being an entrepreneur is not about that. Being an entrepreneur is about time freedom. People have known for well over 25 years. The big joke is that Mark doesn't work Fridays, Saturdays or Sundays. And I don't work Fridays, Saturdays or Sundays. Now, go back maybe 10 years ago when I was still speaking from stage and I used to visit London or Manchester or be invited to speak abroad. Of course, I didn't work Fridays, Saturdays and Sundays. I'd probably be traveling on the Friday to get to the venue ready to speak Friday night or Saturday or Sunday. However, what I put across into all of my mentees' minds from the mindset point of view is, you work a job. Yes, I do. Monday to Friday. Yes, I do. You don't want to work Monday to Friday. No, I don't. How about if you could take Fridays off? Oh, that's good. How can I work 4 days a week? Then you've got them to buy into the concept. Then you can then hone their time down. It's just time. All we're doing exchanging entrepreneurship and finance is time. We can buy our time back. Other people can't. Other people are literally trading their life and time for money.
You know what is a great day off? Mondays. I take Mondays off, and it's amazing because Mondays is amazing because everything is empty. You see, yesterday I were playing tennis and in the pool, and it was spectacular because it's actually empty. Everything is Mondays. If you go to a restaurant, there is nobody. If you go to so on Mondays, it's a day that everybody's so stressed out. So I strongly recommend to our listeners. You see, if you're gonna choose an extra day off, Mondays they're amazing. They're working for me for several years now,
And I
and
don't know I don't know yet what your listeners want to do, Harry. This is the key thing about it. All of these podcasts that we
Fridays
hold.
also is good also. Yeah,
Well, it's
Friday good,
yeah.
but Mondays, oh my God, I was amazing, so relaxing. And because when you go on Saturday or Sunday out there to the restaurants, to the places, they're so full, to a theater, everything is packed. Whether Mondays, Tuesday, oh my God, this is
Sure.
beautiful to go out there. Now the other point, Mark, is exactly what you were referring before. Um, I have my right that he was helping me in my property business, right? And I remember he was working in my property business day. And I remember daddy telling me an advice, say, Harry, do this, yeah? And then I didn't listen to his advice. And then a business mentor come, tell me the same advice, and then I take it on board. And I remember daddy to be angry at me, to say, look, you listen to other people, you don't listen to me. And I tried to explain to daddy that that is not that I don't listen to you, is that the way in my decision making process, when I receive an advice from a mentor, from a coach that actually is selling millions and is in my same space in property, and give me this advice, yeah, and coincide with your advice, that have way more weight to that business decision. It's
Sure.
nothing personal. I love you. You're my dad, and I love you with my life. But when it comes to an advice, I had to get qualified advice from the people that actually done it, because that my dad never have a business, so he's a teacher. He's a great teacher, basic and math, but never have a business. And sometimes yes, common sense and but I have a rule since I'm very early in the entrepreneur life that is not, some people with Harry doesn't listen. I do listen, and I listen a lot, but I listen a lot only to qualified people. I listen a lot only to people that actually has achieved the goals or are in the higher level of entrepreneurship. The reason for that is because this advice be qualified. Nobody will understand 100% the operation that I'm going through and the decision that I'm going to take, unless that someone had done the same business or similar business and is selling more money than me, because an advice, and this is what I was trying to articulate today. Yeah, this is your advice, but in order for me to implement that, there are a lot of things that you're not aware of
Sure.
that I'm dealing, right?
Take this for everyone listening. Um, let's just take that conversation back to where you said father gave you advice, you didn't take it. Your business mentor gave you the same advice and you took the advice. Yeah. So if I was sat in front of a new client now, I would ask them the question, given that as an example, why was that the case? And the case is very simple. How much did your father charge you for the advice? Nothing. How much did your business mentor charge you for the advice? There was a cost involved because she was your business mentor. Yeah.
Well, in
When
that case, it
people
was a friend. He was from the mastermind.
when people give free advice to people, it's very rarely taken on board because it's free. If anything's free in life, people see no value in it. So you subconsciously, your dad gave you the advice, but because it was free advice, you didn't take any value from it. If I retain a business mentor, and there are two of my businesses where I am part of mentorship groups myself, I pay tens of thousands of dollars a year to being part of two specific day trading groups, because I also teach and trade day trading through stocks, not Forex, not gold and silver, not Bitcoin or anything. We're just talking pure stocks and shares. So I still invest in myself, which is what people should do when we talk about a cost of investment. They should invest in themselves, because then when they listen to their business mentor, or in my case with day trading, my day trading mentees listen to me, they can then go out and some of the best success winning rates on the planet. Without shadow of a doubt, they share my story more than I do, and that's how we keep the group small. But they're making tens of thousands of dollars a month from day trading. Literally, penny stocks, dollar stocks to $3, dollar stocks today that have shot up to $13. Now, the reason they listen to me is because I teach them the right way to do it, and they listen to me and they pay for the advice. If they went, as I say to them quite often, guys, girls, go off onto YouTube, go off onto x.com. Go and have a look at all the free advice that's out there, and then do a little exercise. Follow that person's free advice for a week whilst you're also following the paid for advice from me, and see what your win rate is at the end of the week. And for those that have done that over the last 2 years, you can imagine, Harry, what they come back and say. Because anybody giving free advice on Facebook, how to make your next million, isn't worth following, genuinely. Any app that's out there or algorithm that says buy me for $7 and I'll teach you how to have winning trade after winning trade, you're just going to throw $7 away. And most of those algorithms are normally $49 to $149 anyway, because I follow what they're up to. People, when they pay for advice from a qualified business mentor with 38 years worth of experience, suddenly realize he only has their best interests at heart. Otherwise, why do I need more clients? I've just been to 3 weeks in Puerto Rico. I'm booked up for next year's cruise already. I'm soon, and France. We're doing a big development in France. Why do I need to have more clients?
Yeah.
I don't need their money. What I want to do is I want to see their success, and I want to help business. That's why the media called me the business builder over 28 years ago. I never gave myself that moniker. It was put in the press. Mark Walker is the business builder, because I successfully built business after business. Going way back to when eBay came to the UK, I had two of the most successful eBay businesses on eBay for nearly 12 years in total. 14 years we ran the business, then we sold it as a going concern.
Wow. So yeah, the most important thing is to have the qualify advice. I think that because like I said, even this friend give me the advice. It wasn't advice, but because successful entrepreneur, someone owns several houses in United States and in London. So, and he was a multi-millionaire property investor, and so I think that getting the qualified advice and the mentor, yeah, I think is the decision making. And people learn how to hire the right mentor, right? Because there are people that are very good in 0 to 1 million. There are people that are very good at 1 million to 10 million. Other people 10 million to 100 million. Even in this podcast, there are people that are good from 100 million to a billion. This is the thing. Absolutely. That they are good. So people, when you hiring our listener, the mentor, you need to find out what type of business you have, and it done with you in the goal that you want to achieve. And if he has done it before, and a lot of people can tell me, you see, the coach Bolt doesn't run as fast as Usain Bolt, and he happy to become a gold medal. So you really need to do before you coach a mentor.
That's a great analogy for people, because Usain Bolt had the physique and the muscle
absolutely
to run, but he still tell him how to position himself, how to carry himself, how to crouch, and how to run, and how to hold his arms. The coach will keep him
accountable, but it's a difference between coach and mentor, right? A coach is someone that can keep you accountable, that can help you to achieve your goals, that can somehow guide you in the technique, and can excel and you get the gold medal. But when to mentorship is completely different ball game, because that mentor have is undoubtedly he has executed himself. If I've done it before, otherwise there's no way that the person can know they have executed. So there is a difference between coaching and mentorship. We mentor and coach thousands of people around the world, and in our platforms. So it's important to understand that there is a difference between coach and mentor. And when you find it, when it comes to business, in my opinion, it's really important that someone that's going to guide you have done it before, because he will understand in some form what you're going through, right? And of course, if it happens that the mentor is a good coach and knows how to keep you accountable and guide you, that's amazing. But also the mindset of the entrepreneur, Mark, because sometimes the biggest resistance, for example, I very powerful what you just shared, that when you said, well, when I was 24 years old, everything that I touched into gold. But you know what? I was someone that wanted to learn and humble enough to listen and to learn from people and to be coachable. Like, for example, you said that with years old, have a mentor that and so on. Look at you. When I was 24, I was thinking that, that I'm the king of the world. I was not listening anybody. You know what I mean? So when do you got that discipline? When do you got this mindset power? Because I think that we have a lot of entrepreneurs from the early age, like you. Look at you, how successful you are. So imagine, but people look at you how successful you are now, but they don't understand that when you were 24 years old, even when you are 8 years old and you cutting that grass, you listening to your mom, you listening to your mentor, you follow what your mentor, don't have this ego and know everything and the king of the world. You listening to your mentors. I remember when I opened my restaurant, I have a girlfriend back on the day, and the mom was a great entrepreneur. And as soon as she opened the restaurant, she told me, Harry, he closed it. This is not gonna work. And I'm like, I'm gonna make this work. I'm the big guy. And 2 years line, and it didn't work. And she told me from day one, as soon as she opened the door, because she was an entrepreneur, so she knew just by opening the door of my restaurant in Brick Lane. So it's that ego, Mark, that we all entrepreneurs we have, because we all have ego, undoubtable, because we think we think that we can do better. Otherwise, we won't become entrepreneurs. So that ego, we have it for sure. All entrepreneurs with. But when is the moment that you surrendered that ego and you said, look, I need to learn, I need to find a mentor, I need help? For me, the turning point was when I was 200, when I lost the 200,000 in that restaurant. That day, I realized that it was not a big deal, that this ego that I have, I had to drop it. And if I want to progress in business, I had to be humble, I had to listen to people. And this big deal that I thought that Harry was a big deal and I know everything and I can make millions with property, at the end of the day, it doesn't work. So when do you start to be you're so lucky that you find out this very at the very young age? So how you find how you manage to behave like this?
So
Do you have a bad experience?
yeah, no, the only reason I'm laughing is because if you were one of my clients, my friend, you using the word ego all the time is just doing yourself a disservice. I get it, the use of the word ego. I always say that somebody with an ego is somebody who actually is in many things, and they put on a bravado, which is the ego. There's a very fine line, and also at the same time a big void between the word ego and confidence. So the question is, where does confidence come from? Well, confidence for me, I was the eldest grandchild. All of my cousins are still alive, so I'm still obviously I'll always be the oldest grandchild. And I did a lot of things at school. I went to a very good school. It was a Royal Grammar School here in Worcester. And I am still, and this may shock some listeners, I am still in touch with my form master from my fourth and in the old numbers. When I say year 4 and 5, that's when I was 14 and 15 in the old scoring days. You started senior school and it was year 1 at senior school. I know that kids nowadays are in year 12s and 14s, and also it confuses me still to this day. But in the year, as it was at the Royal Grammar School, Worcester, my form master was an amazing guy. We did as a school, they supported students with ideas. So literally every time I put an idea forward, that would go through to the school. My master would put it forward, and we would generally get signed off as, yeah, we can do that. The biggest thing I did on the year that I left school was I arranged for a group of us to walk the whole length of Hadrian's Wall up in the north, the old-fashioned, the divide between England and Scotland. And that was from Bowness on the east coast right the way through to Wallsend in Newcastle. It took us a week to walk it. I'd already completed my O-levels. O-levels don't even exist in today's educational system. Let's not go into education at this point in time, Harry, because other than for me to say the UK education system is broken, and we wonder why so many kids are running around and like headless chickens and focusing on everything that they shouldn't do, except for being a better person for themselves, supporting their family, making their family
start a business. They should
starting their business.
They should teach in UK some financial education and how to start a business. That's a good topic. Be teaching and encouraging people in the our young generation, United Kingdom, right?
Yeah, nowadays, 2025, the year that we're in now, has never been an easier time for anybody to start a business using their
Absolutely, I agree with you.
Buy a domain name, use AI technology, write your script and copy, set up a website.
The barrier to entry is so low now. So now with the AI that I remember using how long with English is not my first language. So I remember to write a letter sometimes Take me like 2 days. I had to write and I had to check the spelling and everything. And now you can do this in 2 minutes.
So the question is for everyone listening
perfect.
The question is for everyone listening in is, what's stopping them from creating their first £1 million? That was your first question at the top of the hour was, it's £1 million business. How do they create it? My question is, what's stopping them? The only thing
what is on the way?
Well, the only thing I can imagine is they've not had a conversation with a business mentor yet, where they can kind of ask them some of the key points and the information, and then see what is the cost of working with a business mentor. Because not all business mentors are out to be taking, 20, 30,000 pounds a year or dollars a year. It doesn't matter. Some individual mentors like myself, I do group mentorship as well. So the cost of entry, the barrier to the cost of entry is pretty much removed. But I would rather you take your example of spending £200,000 on a restaurant. You have met me, and it's a very simple story, isn't it, to kind of make up on the hoof, because you know where this is going, and so do your listeners know where this is going. But had you have invested a small proportion of that in me as a business mentor that could have looked at your operation from start and what type of restaurant it was going to be, potentially, is all I'm saying, you could have saved £200,000. Now, you spent the £200,000.
Probably you would tell me don't open it.
Well, I don't know. There may have there could have been a different way, Harry, is all I'm saying. This is the thing with a business mentor, is to see them become successful. And it's not about saying to someone's dreams and aspirations, don't do it, that's a load of rubbish. It can be a case of saying, that's a great idea. It's not being done in this area, but I have a friend who did a similar thing down here in this other road, and it worked fine. Let's give that a try. And it's opening up that conversation. Conversation is where money is saved and money is made.
Absolutely. Every problem in life gets solved out of the conversation. So, Mark, thank you so much. This has been fantastic. I really, from this broadcast, we showed our listeners, or the entrepreneurs who want to be entrepreneurs that are listening to us, to strongly advise you to find a mentor, find someone that guide you, and to be open to listen, because in the business world, there is a lot of things that you need to know, a lot of little things, and if someone have there and have the experience and the value of the mentors coincide with your value as the value of the company, I think you can go ahead really far if you listen to your mentor. And the whole thing, I think that to answer the question, Mark, the whole thing, that the resistance that we find out there with entrepreneurs and mentorship, is not that mentorship doesn't work, is that the lack of ability the entrepreneur have to find the right mentor. So do your due diligence. Like Mark said, you can speak with your mentor. You can see if what the mentor share resonate with you, and then we strongly advise you to work with the mentor, whatever business you do, with the coach, because the trial and error in business is expensive. It's very tiring. I've done it myself, my own experience, so I can guarantee you that the trial and error is really, really expensive and hard, and sometimes a lot of people don't give up. A lot of people are there. Yeah. Okay. You're an entrepreneur. You don't give up and you will succeed. Hold on. Have you ever seen a fly going through a glass window? It doesn't matter that the fly doesn't give up. It will never go through the glass window. So you need someone, a mentor, to tell you, look, you have to change your approach. You are a fly. Of course, you don't give up, but hey, the door is out there. Fly out the door, and if you don't have that mentor that point you where the door is, it doesn't matter. You will get against the window again and again and again. So with that note, thank you so much, everybody, for joining, and see you in our next episode of Unstoppable. How brave entrepreneurs like Mark break that wall and achieve the first million. Bye for now.
Thanks very much, guys. Thanks, Harry. Bye, everybody.
Follow us for more interviews with world's most influential, audacious entrepreneurs that overcame challenges and adversity, providing you with the blueprint of how they sold their first million so you can grow your business exponentially.